Afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are, everyone, and welcome to this session on reimagining healthcare in Africa. My name is Eniola Harrison, and I'm a communications consultant and co-founder of Africa Communications Week. I'm thrilled to have with me today four really impressive entrepreneurs and thought leaders in the health tech space who will share with us their insights and expertise on the changing face of healthcare in Africa and the role that tech plays in delivering the continent's healthcare needs. So I'm going to introduce them very briefly, and each of them, and then I will ask them to tell us more about themselves and the work that they do. So I'm starting off with Dr. Adigo Atabo, founder and medical director at Dr. Functional Medicine. She's a pioneer in the emerging field of network medicine, providing data-driven, personalized nutrition and lifestyle therapy for health and disease management. We've also got with us Dr. Abasi Ene-Obong, who's the CEO and founder of Ad54Gene, a health technology company that advances the state of healthcare through large-scale discovery and translational research, advanced molecular diagnostics, and clinical programs for the benefit of Africans and the global population. We have with us Patrick Beattie, who is the co-founder and CEO of Redbird. And Redbird sees a leapfrog opportunity in the emerging market healthcare via primary care systems designed for the digital world. And we have Dr. Precious Lunga, who is the CEO and co-founder of Baobab Circle. Her company developed the award-winning health platform Afia PAP, which delivers personalized management of chronic health conditions such as diabetes and hypertension across the African continent via mobile phones. So welcome to all four of you. We have some really brilliant and amazing people in the house. I'm really looking forward to this conversation on healthcare, on health tech, and reimagining healthcare in Africa. So I will just first start off by asking each of you to tell us more about the work that you do, and then we'll dive into the questions. So we'll start with you, Adigo.
Okay, hi. Thank you for having me. I'm really pleased to be here. And I'm going to give a shout out to Ife and the organizers of TechX for an amazing conference or event. So yes, I started off in plastic surgery. I completed my training and then I made a switch to functional medicine, which is based on systems biology, delivering care using systems biology. And as I increased my clinical experience with systems biology, I came to see the importance of the biomarker in precision medicine and delivering precision medicine. And so this has led me to found a company called Persomic, which is a digital health biomarker network analysis platform. And the way I see it, it is the network analysis, putting that front and center, is really the cusp of disrupting healthcare provision in the field of precision medicine. Okay.
Thank you, Adigo. And so next, I'm going to go to Abasi.
Hi, thank you, Eniola. Nice to meet you all. One of the threads that we are going to all be talking about today, from what I see, is precision medicine. And precision medicine isn't complete without understanding genetics. Unfortunately, Africa has been largely excluded in the world of genetics, where to date, only 2.4% of genetic information out there, are from Africans. And when you consider that Africa has the most diverse ethnic groups in the world, at least a third of the world's ethnic groups are in Africa. It has the most genetic diversity on the continent. In the world, the most genetic diversity in the world is on the continent. And when you start looking at how do you personalize medicine, if you don't understand the genetic drivers behind diseases, the biomarkers, and they can be different for different populations, you can bring the promise of precision medicine down to the people. Interestingly as well, by understanding those variations, you could or you would end up improving worldwide understanding of biology, so that it's not just affecting us as Africans, but the general population regardless of race. As you know, every modern humans originated on the continent. What 54G is doing is we're trying to lead the way on that by really spurring precision medicine on the continent, particularly using genetics. We have partnerships with lots of hospitals right now, and we have tens of thousands, nearly 100,000 people who've participated to be part of our research. And our goal is that we will start soon releasing data that informs us about how diseases affect us as Africans. And hopefully that can be taken to the clinics. And that's what we do at 54G.
That's amazing. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Precious, and then we'll go to Patrick.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on this panel with you all. Following along the lines of that precision medicine, I'm an epidemiologist, and what I've seen happening on the ground, well, it's a global trend, but I see it particularly in Africa because it's overlooked, is this growing burden of non-communicable diseases. And we know that there are risk factors which do include genetics and exposure and what your parents even ate. What's really important about these conditions is that they require pretty much continuous monitoring and that personalization piece where we have to really understand how we can help people modify their lifestyle in order to have better outcomes. So I built this company really around the premise that we want to keep people out of hospitals by keeping them healthy. And how we do that is by delivering services that help them do the right things for their health at home. And so the platform actually incorporates behavioral science, it incorporates monitoring and tracking, as well as supporting people to take their medications and to stay healthy.
Thank you, Precious. Patrick.
Hi, everyone. Patrick calling in from Accra. And at Redbird, we focus on convenient healthcare, recognizing the shift towards chronic disease and the need, as Precious just mentioned, for constant monitoring. I think that is an important key to that. We're most well known in Ghana for our network of 300 independent pharmacies who offer rapid diagnostic testing in pharmacy for 10 different disease areas, chronic and acute, all supported by our tech backbone, the patient health record system that means a patient can go to any of the 300 pharmacies and get the same test performed and access their entire health record through that. I'm not a doctor, I'm the one on the call who isn't, but my background is from the engineering side in medical diagnostics. That's where we focus. And I think similar to what Abasi was saying, we see this lack of African representation, especially in data assets that are becoming more and more important to the future of pharmaceutical development. However, we also see that as an opportunity. The greenfield space here means that we can create data assets that are even more valuable than you could have anywhere else in the world for a lot of factors, which I'm sure we'll be talking about. So pleased to be on the panel. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Thank you to all of you for that for that introduction. And I think we will definitely come back to discuss the issue of precision medicine, and then also what the availability of these data sets that we now have will, how that will impact healthcare in the next 10 years. But first, I want to dial back a little bit, and you are all entrepreneurs in healthcare, in health tech. What challenges is health tech facing across the continent? I would say particularly maybe mobile tech. So maybe I will start with Precious.
I think it's a relatively new area. I would say what is becoming apparent is the regulatory sort of challenge. There are new actually policies that are coming into place on where does the health data reside, how should the health data be treated, and I think that as entrepreneurs, as the community, digital health community, we should work very closely actually with the regulators, with the stakeholders, to understand what the needs are in terms of safeguarding the privacy and security of users, and understanding the sovereignty of the state, and balancing that out with the public health good. I think COVID-19 has really thrown that up into light, particularly even as you talk about the cross-border sort of movements of people, because if I'm in the Gambia and then I cross over to Senegal, what happens to my data? And people are moving all the time. So I see this as a that sort of data sharing aspect across and between governments and also with other organizations is becoming large, and is something that is a challenge for entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Precious. Would anyone like to add to that?
Yeah, I'll jump in because I completely agree with that. I think the regulation and is a problem that you see globally, and I think that's actually what I see is a lot of the problems that we face in our market in Ghana are not dissimilar to problems that other health tech companies globally face. Sometimes it's just compounded with other issues. So I think one of the key things that we always try to keep in mind at Redbird is patient preference. We as entrepreneurs often at Redbird get caught up in all the things we could do with tech. But it's really important to remember that in the end, it matters how the patient wants to engage with their healthcare. A big part of the reason we go into pharmacies is because that's where we saw patients already felt comfortable. And therefore we wanted to leverage that relationship to be able to help move them into a more health tech supported care, and so higher level care, but without forcing them to access that care in a way that they didn't feel comfortable. I think that's a challenge that you see across the world with health tech. I think it's compounded a bit in this market, at least with just a lower level of tech adoption or comfort by individuals, which of course needs to come into play when you're thinking of your solution.
Thanks, Patrick. Adigo, did you? Oh, Abasi, I see that you're on mute. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to that. I mean, you two couldn't have said it any better. See, the issue in Africa is that, in most parts of Africa, is that healthcare was stagnant for quite a long time. And now you're beginning to see an accelerated growth, with, for example, some of the companies here are doing things that were not done over the past 20 years on the African continent. And so what you now have is regulators are also trying to catch up. They see there's accelerated growth. They need to regulate the accelerated growth. And we have to be very careful to make sure that we are also going at, if we're speeding and growing, we need to be making sure that the regulators are also, growing, right? Because what happens is there's a big disconnect when, your regulator is regulating you based on perceived or knowledge of the past 10, 15 years. That may not fit with today's world. And we have to make sure, and I don't know how we do it, but we companies in this space have to make sure that we are also, holding our regulators and making sure they are growing alongside us. Otherwise, that disconnect will really break the system.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my sort of next question, which is how do you bring the regulators along with you? Adigo, would you like to speak to these challenges and maybe also give us some insight if you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I resonate with Abasi's point. I think that we have to almost, there's the point of self-regulation if the regulators are lagging behind, right? So being kind of ethical, having an ethical approach, we should hold ourselves to high standards in terms of protecting patient data, privacy and security. And then at the same time, either band together to develop industry-wide regulation standards and feed into the official channels for setting regulation. Yeah, I think when you're at in a place where you're moving ahead of the regulators, then you have to kind of take responsibility, if you're a good faith player, to set standards that align with your values of protecting patient care.
Yeah, I'll just jump in on that. I absolutely agree, and it's really important that we speak to regulators, and particularly in the health space, because I like to think that most of us are in this because we care about outcomes, and the ministries of health and the state also cares about outcomes, and so we have to work together and find a way forward. So finding the time to meet with the ministries of health, certainly at Baobab Circle, whichever country we go to, the first door we knock on, actually, there are two doors: the Ministry of Health and the major grassroots organizations. Because one, we want to understand what's happening on the ground, and two, we also want to let the regulator know that we're there and to ask and to get guidance. And once you do that, it actually opens the door for dialogue, because then they see that you're there and you're acknowledging them. Of course, it's a different way when you're an entrepreneur, you want to run fast, but we also have to, we're in health, so we really have to slow down and speak to the regulators.
I think.
Go ahead, Patrick. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think it's a great point that everyone has the same aims here, the regulators included, right? Is to improve healthcare, and so you're absolutely right, Precious. And one of the ways we think about it is it's then you got to build that trust that what you're doing really can improve the healthcare, and so finding that niche that fits within regulation and focusing on, as entrepreneurs, we always think about what can you do to demonstrate the traction that you can bring to investors and others to then get you able to get that next bit of traction and build off that. In a way, it's the same with regulation. We feel you have to be able to find your niche where regulation exists, demonstrate what you can do and the improvement, and then use that to build the relationship to push a little more and grow from there. I think the other thing that we think about as important is just building the ecosystem. So I love being in things like this where you're other entrepreneurs, because the more of us who are working in this space, the more normalized and familiar it becomes, and that helps everyone in the end.
Absolutely, no, that's true, and possibly also including the regulators in these kinds of conversations as well. So let's go back to what we were discussing a little bit earlier about precision medicine, about the availability or the increasing availability now of these data sets, this research. I'll start with Abasi. So what I would say, what opportunities does this present for healthcare in Africa over the next 10 years, for example?
So quite a few opportunities. So let's start from the patient, right? So there is the issue of misdiagnosis in Africa. When you go to most hospitals, it's malaria or typhoid. And we speak with doctors, and it's interesting to find out what is really going on behind the scenes in many of the public hospitals and some of the diseases that are being found these days, right? So the more information people have, the more that we're beginning to notice that we are seeing rare diseases on the continent. That's actually an area of healthcare that in Africa that most countries haven't even gone to, because the drugs are not really targeted here. So just first of all, getting the right diagnosis, whether that's in cancer, knowing that you have HER2 positive or triple negative breast cancer, which then informs the drug that you are given. That's one. Being able to also detect, the variation or the mutation in cancers. So let's use cancers, for example. What we read a lot about cancers are based on research that has been done on other populations. The genetic drivers of prostate cancer in a West African man of the Yoruba ethnic group might have a different genetic signature, right, from the genetic signature of prostate cancer in even a West African man of the Fulani tribe, and most cancer drugs are targeted to those genetic signatures. And so if you don't know what you're treating, you could be taking medicine, it's expensive, and you're not treating what is actually behind the scenes. And so, being able to understand what the genetic signatures of various diseases are, and being able to even develop molecular diagnostic tests that are more suited and targeted and affordable for the population. By the time you do that, you radically solve the problem of bad diagnosis. The other aspect is drug discovery. When you look at the field of drug discovery, Africa contributes less than 1% to global drug discovery. What does that mean? It means that because none of the value chain of drug discovery comes from here, and we don't have data, around, the commercial value or where the patients are, it's difficult for the companies that are making the drugs to actually bring them into the continent because they don't know where to target it to, right? And so the situation you have is one that after a drug has been launched, for example, in the US, UK, it could take 10 to 20 years for that same medicine to get to Africa. And so by the time people in Africa are getting medicines, they are actually getting old medicines. The world has moved on to new technology, right? So all this data, the data can help improve a lot of these things because, data is what helps us leapfrog the decay that has been in the system. By being able to harness the data and ask the right questions on the data, we could actually develop solutions that allow us leapfrog, similar to the analogy of the landlines and wireless, right? That's what data can do for us in healthcare. So I'll pause there to let some of my colleagues respond. So keep quiet.
Adigo, did you want to comment on that?
Sure. I think a huge area for opportunity is in the area of prevention. So 80% of chronic diseases are preventable and potentially reversible. So applying, finding solutions that deliver precision medicine is a powerful way of shifting the balance from disease management to prevention. So I think this is could be an advantage to us in the African sector because those solutions can be scaled globally. Healthcare spending, the trend is rising exponentially and is not sustainable. So every single country is looking for ways to reduce healthcare spending. And having prevention strategies in place, which I think are supported by precision medicine, is a way of doing this.
Thank you. That's really, that's a really huge opportunity, I would say. Very, very huge opportunity for healthcare. Precious, you wanted to?
Yeah, I just wanted to also jump on and use the example, jump onto what Abasi said, is if you look at the COVID vaccine that's being developed now, imagine if we had our own vaccine in Africa. There's a vaccine candidate is really promising, but it has to be stored in such cold temperatures, it will not get to Africa. We should be doing this as a continent. So I think that the opportunities there, the scientists are there. We just haven't been investing in doing that sort of work. So whereas at the moment we're consumers of developments, years down the line, we could be the generators of IP and drugs and vaccines that are suitable for other countries. So it's a really fantastic opportunity, and congratulations to Abasi for doing that, and Adigo.
No, this is amazing, and we only have we don't have a lot of time left. So what I would like to then sort of quickly move to is so Precious, you mentioned that this is we should be leading at the forefront of this research. We should be doing more. What are the enablers? What do we need? Is it from an investment perspective? I mean, we've talked about regulation, from policy. What do we need to be able to move more increasingly move in this direction over the next 10 years?
We need to invest money into the research. Research and development costs money. I think actually, in terms of the pool of scientists and institutions that are able to do this sort of work, we actually have world-class institutions that are at this moment even participating in clinical trials, etc., for drugs that have been built in the US or UK or Asia. But we haven't yet really invested in the basic R&D at the level of the continent. So a large lot of money being invested in healthcare R&D would be a start.
Thank you. And Patrick, would you like to say something as we round up?
Sure, yeah, I completely agree with that. Investment is needed. I think the other thing that we think a lot about is the future of building a lot of these data sets is not just research, but also how you structure your healthcare system. And that's where we see the opportunity. That's what gets us so excited at Redbird, is we see the same situation as other leapfrog events that have happened in healthcare. Because chronic disease is becoming similar across the world, yet infrastructure is in a very different place. Can we now leapfrog into a distributed, decentralized, but digitally enabled healthcare system where patient data, as Precious and Abasi have mentioned, is following the patient wherever they go. And therefore, we're creating the basis for real-world data, real-world evidence data assets that then can be leveraged into some of these research and development products to make sure that the future of pharma development actually heavily involves the continent. And I think it is a situation where, because data silos don't exist to the same degree here, there's a huge opportunity to create a much better data asset that the future of pharma research will be based on right here.
Thank you so much. So, I mean, there's so much more we could talk about, and I think we could spend a lot more time really deep diving into these topics, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. But I just want to thank each and every one of you for your contribution. I think the work that you're doing is amazing. The health tech space in Africa looks extremely exciting. And I think that really the next, we're gonna see some amazing things in the next 10 years. So I just want to thank each and every one of you again, and looking forward to connecting and staying connected. And thank you everybody else who has tuned in. This has been great.
Thank you.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good day, bye-bye.